Hey guys, Sam Rady here, and I play with Maverick City Music Housefires, and today we're gonna do a gear rundown and a look at some of the basses that I play on the studio albums and some of the live shows. And for part 2 of the video, we're gonna go through and kind of listen to some of the sounds that I use and how I kind of mix the basses with the gear that I have and kind of the application that I put onto records or playing a live show or playing at church. And to get part 2, go ahead and look at the link in the description below, enter your email, and we'll send it right over to you. All right guys, so we're gonna head straight in and we're gonna first talk about this P bass that I have here. This is a Nash PB57. It has been my tried and true bass since like 2016, I believe. And it's just a really overall great bass. I've used it on records. You probably might notice it from the Jubilee record, specifically God of Israel is where I play it the most. And then I play this one at church all the time. It just gives me a really great sound, just super even, and obviously you can't go wrong with a P bass. Alright, so next up we got the Fender Mustang bass. This is a JMJ signature bass, and I actually got this one right before, it was a week before I was about to play on my first Housefires record. It was Housefires 5, it was back in 2018. I walked into a Guitar Center and I saw this bass and I just instantly fell in love, and it just fit the vibe really well. I was trying to go for a different thing for Housefires than I had ever played before, and I wanted a really like kind of mellow tone to kind of fit the acoustic vibe. So I strung it up with these flat wounds. I believe these are D'Addario flat wounds. And it just is awesome. It's super fun. It's a short scale, so you can kind of like rip on it. And it's just, yeah, super fun bass. All right, next up I got this brand new to me, but not to the world of bass. It's a jazz bass. It's a 5-string Fender. It's a Japanese model from 2004. I actually just picked it up at the end of 2019, and it's kind of my return to 5 strings. I learned how to play bass on a 5-string, so it's like feels super natural to me. And yeah, I actually played it on a record that's coming out soon with Tribal Records, so definitely be on the lookout for that. And it's just so much fun. I have so many more like frequencies to work with, and obviously with the Maverick City stuff and the Tribal stuff and Housefire stuff, you know, we don't use like a lot of tracks. It's super organic and raw, so this like lets me have a super wide variety of tones to work with, and kind of lets me like play a lot of deeper notes that, you know, I wouldn't get with a 4-string or with the Mustang. So yeah, this is a really fun bass. I'm really excited to start playing it even more in the coming up future. Alright guys, so since now you have seen pretty much all the basses I use, I would love to go over my pedal board setup and kind of explain the versatility of it and why I use certain things for certain situations. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So obviously we're gonna start off with the Polytune Mini. This is the Nor version, so nothing too exciting here, but it will help you out super good. It's keeps you in tune, so you should definitely try it out if you never have before. And out of that, we are going into the Cali 76 compressor. And for me, I really love like super compressed bass. I really like love to hear the compressor. So I tried 8 compressors. I swear I tried pretty much all of them, and I got a really good deal on this one, and I fell in love instantly. It's everything I really want. It has that super like light harmonic grit on the top end that I really love to hear, and it just really like brings the bass together. And I really love, there's this HPF knob on the on this compressor because this is the bass compact, and it really just adds, you can kind of add your low end back so you're not compressing as much low end. So I really love that, and I really love that it has the dry knob on it as well, and it just serves me super well. It's just a great compressor. I haven't heard anything better. I know a lot of guys like the LA2A, but I'm a Cali 76 kind of guy. So and out of that, I go straight into this old Boss Octaver. This is a Taiwanese one. I believe it's from either the 70s or the 80s. I can't remember, but it is awesome. And I use it, I don't use it for everything. I honestly only ever use it when I don't have a Moog or a synth bass on stage, because it's got this weird like low end octave thing that it does. It's like super artificial sounding, super cheap, but in a weird way, it just makes your bass sound massive and it makes it sound super cool. So if you're trying to kind of get a fun pedal to just kind of mess around with, I think octave pedals are really awesome. And that one in particular is great. And I know that they just released a new one that sounds almost identical to this one. So you should definitely check it out if you're trying to kind of play around with something, if you're trying to get those synth-based tones for some of the more energetic kind of synthy worship tunes that are happening nowadays. And then out of that, I go into the HX Stomp, which I kind of bought on a whim. You know, I kind of went from having a really big bass pedal board because I loved using a lot of effects for different gigs, and like whether that be pop or whether that be like a worship gig, or if that was like church, like I was saying, playing those like synthy pop tunes. And I kind of bought this out on a whim, and I really, really love it. It's awesome. It's got pretty much everything you could imagine, all the effects you can imagine. I have a chorus set up right here, and I have a drive and another octaver, which I use the octaver and the drive for like church, and I use those kind of to get that like Bethel sound because I don't have the electro harmonics. I think it's the bass micro synth. That's what it's called. So I don't have that, so I kind of made my own bass micro synth in a way. And then I use the chorus a lot because I feel like it's a really cool sound for the more upbeat tunes. Kind of spreads your bass out, and it sounds really sick with the Boss Octaver. It kind of gives it this like warbly synth bass thing, and then, you know, if you want to throw some like drive or maybe a fuzz pedal on it, you can kind of get a Moog sound without having one, and that's really tight if you don't have the money to grab one, or if you're just trying to make your bass rig super cool and you're like, oh, I would rather spend that money on a pedal board rather than a synth bass. It's really cool. That's a great setup for church or any kind of like, you know, Hillsong Young and Free tunes, as I usually play it on. Oh, let me mention one other thing. Big key tip, I actually bought a preset for the Helix, and it was Adam Kaiser from Bethel. I bought his preset, and it sounds amazing. I kind of did my own tweaks on it. I only took one of his sounds. I mean, the whole thing sounds great, so if you're looking for a great bass sound, you should definitely check out Adam Kaiser or David Curran's Helix sounds. They're both awesome. So definitely recommend that. It's a great way to get into it. If you're kind of like, I don't know how to work digital stuff, like, it's great because it kind of sets you up. But Adam Kaiser has this really great general EQ that I use, and it sounds awesome. I literally haven't touched it, and it just adds like a lot of low end, you get a lot of the mids, and you kind of get this highs thing that just sounds really tight. And I use it on every single preset I have. And I have different presets for each bass. Like my P bass has like a more drive tone that I use at church, again, to kind of get that Bethel tone, which I'll usually use like a pick and stuff like that. And then I have a Mustang preset, which is like pretty much nothing on it except for that general EQ that I'll use for like Housefires and Maverick City. And then the jazz bass I'm still working on since I just got it, but it's basically my P bass preset, but just like a little less gain because these just don't sound good with a lot of gain, in my opinion. And outside of the Helix, I go straight into the Noble DI, which is the best pedal I've ever purchased in my entire life. It is my desert island pedal. I would definitely recommend it to anyone. I know it's expensive, but if you are seriously trying to take bass like as a serious profession, I feel like you just can't go wrong with the Noble. It's better than any DI you'll ever get. I'm not endorsed by them. I found out they don't do endorsements, and so I just speak super highly of it. They've got this really cool low cut knob, and so you can kind of, if you have a bass that has a lot of lows on it, you can cut the lows with that switch. The bass and treble, the way that they work, they don't cut anything. You kind of start off even, so everything's just flat when you get it, and all the bass and the treble does is just add, and so it sounds really cool. I'm super, like I said, I've had it for, gosh, I've had it since 2017, and it is just the best, and I can't speak enough good words about it. So yeah, definitely go pick one up. I know it's expensive, but do it. You will not regret it. All right guys, and that is my rig rundown. That's some of the basses I use and the pedals that I use. And for part 2, we're gonna talk about different techniques that I use and why I use certain basses or certain sounds for church or records or for live shows. To get part 2, just go to the link in the description, put in your email, and we'll get that video right over to you. So yeah, let's hop into the next video.